Hey guys, Tina here and welcome to the first video in a series of videos that I will be posting throughout December. This is what I'd like to think of as a year in review series, and there will be different themed videos throughout this month, and this first one is actually sort of my least favorite to film because I do not like to, talk too negatively about books because, sometimes I do not like a certain book, and that definitely doesn't mean that it's not good, or that thousands of other people don't like it, and it's just my opinion, and for some reason we didn't mash really well, and that's why it ended up on this list. So yeah, it wasn't that they were too bad or anything, but just I didn't like them that much. Just so you know, this is going to be the books that I've read this year, not that they were necessarily published this year. But yeah, let's talk about the DNFs first. The first book that I DNF'd was the Bane Chronicles by Cassandra Clare and a bunch of other authors. I got this book back when it came out. Bagdis Bane is one of my favorite characters out of the Mortal Instruments, or the whole Shadowhunter Chronicles, out of all the series. And I really thought it's going to be great reading about my favorite character, or one of them anyways. And then when the book came out, I picked it up and read one of the short stories in it, and I didn't really care much for it. Then this year I picked it back up, and I think I got to the third novella, definitely not further, because I really hated what they did with Magnus's character. He was really always really enjoyable, complex. Within this bind up of novellas, he was just so annoying, so childish, so immature, and I think they completely ruined it, at least for me, and I didn't enjoy this stories, so I decided to simply DNF the book, because simply I just couldn't force myself to read it. So yeah, that was the first DNF of this year. The second and actually last DNF of this year was The Gospel of Loki by Joanna M. Harris. This is a book that talks about Norse mythology from Loki's perspective. It's written as a story. It's not separate stories, separate myths, but it's written as one story. And I thought it's going to be really great. And for those of you who have been following me for a while, you know that I have struggled for months to read this book, and I only got to like halfway through it, and I still actually have a bookmark, which it doesn't need it. But yeah, anyways, and the writing was great. It was really enjoyable. I have read her books before, so I knew that the writing, it's not problematic. But just Loki was such an annoying character. He was always whining and complaining, and he was always the victim, and he was always plotting something, and he was just, for me, he was not an enjoyable character. So I decided to finally give this book up and just put it away, because I don't think I will be picking this up again, at least not in the near future. Next, I'm going to talk about a few books that I've read, but wasn't really impressed by them for some reason. And the first of those is The Girl with All the Gifts by M.R. Carey. This is probably my fault that this book disappointed me, because for the longest time I had been hearing how good it is, but I didn't really know what it was about. And then recently I learned that it's actually a zombie book, and as I mentioned before, that means that I sort of had certain expectations what that meant, and it definitely didn't go the way I thought it was gonna go, which is not necessarily bad. It clashed with my expectations, and I was slightly disappointed. A few parts of it actually dragged, and I didn't really like that. But in general, it was not a bad story. It just I really liked the psychological aspects of it, the exploration of human experience, and the relationships between all the characters, and the reversal of roles, and I really like that. But all in all, it disappointed me. It's just no reason at all. I know this is a very popular book. I didn't see the movie and probably won't, but it's not that I don't recommend it. I definitely recommend it. Just it just didn't meet my expectations, simply as that. Now, I actually had no expectations when it comes to the next book, and I just sort of picked it up because it was really hyped at the time, and I knew that I have to read it because otherwise I'm going to get spoiled. And that is actually Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, and it was based on one of J.K. Rowling's stories by, well, John Tiffany and Jack Thorne. And actually I had no idea what to expect from this book. I knew that it was a script, and I generally don't like scripts that much. I don't think that was the problem, but I just really didn't enjoy the characters. Harry Potter's child, which is, what's his name, Albus? Is it Albus? I already forgot, so that tells you a lot. Well, let's go with Albus, you know, if it's not, then, well, who cares. Anyways, I didn't really like the kid. He was annoying, he was spoiled and just stupid, and I didn't care for him at all. And the second part of the story actually sort of picked up, but it was definitely, for me, it didn't have the magic of Harry Potter. And you know, if you say it's Harry Potter, just give me that magic, that's that feeling when you read Harry Potter, and I just didn't feel it. And I know, again, that people definitely will disagree with me, because, you know, it was sort of a book that divided, you know, people loved it or they didn't care for it at all, and I know that a lot of people liked it, so, you know, definitely if you're interested, pick it up. I just, personally, I didn't enjoy it as much, you know, as I would like to, as I would have liked to, but yeah, what can you do? I definitely don't regret reading it, but, you know, I would really like if it was, you know, written by J.K. Rowling, and, you know, it was real Harry Potter with all the great characteristics that she brings to her characters, and I would have liked that, really. Another book that really disappointed me was The Last Star by Rick Yancey. I started reading the Fifth Wave trilogy a few months before it came out, the last book came out, and I really enjoyed book 1. Book 2, I mean, I didn't think it was necessary, you know, because the story didn't really progress throughout it, but okay, I didn't mind that much. But the last book, I don't know, it just sort of, for me, it was really confusing, and half the time I didn't know what was going on, so maybe it was, you know, lack of focus on my part or whatever, but I really didn't enjoy it. And again, I know that people did love it, so, you know, I'm not sure, I'm probably in minority here, but that was another disappointment. Lastly, I'm going to talk about a few books that I picked up at some point this year, but then put down and never reached for them again. And the first one is Rebel Angels by Libba Bray. This is book 2 in her Gemma Duel trilogy. Now, I read the first book last year, I think, and I didn't really care for it that much, because, you know, I read The Diviners before that, and, you know, I thought, I'm gonna love this trilogy, people love it. And then I picked it up, and I really didn't like Gemma as a character. I have mentioned a few times this year that I have been having a hard time liking YA characters sometimes. You know, it's, I don't know, I'm just having a harder time relating to them, I think. And sometimes, you know, they can be really immature and just annoying, and I found Gemma to be like that, and I just really couldn't relate to her. Sometimes that happens. I mean, Evie in The Diviners was pretty similar. I really didn't like her, but, you know, the rest of the cast is really great there, and, you know, they take some of the focus off of her, and it was easier to read, and this one just doesn't have that much, and I couldn't stand Gemma, and I decided I'm going to pick this one up and try it, and I actually did, but I didn't really get far. I'm not even sure that I finished the first chapter, I just wasn't feeling it, so I put it down. Now this series might end up being a DNF, or, you know, never be picked up again, but I am still keeping it, and hopefully I will be picking it up again at some point, but I'm not entirely sure that's going to happen. Another book I picked up but then put down was The Sword of Shannara by Terry Brooks. At the beginning of this year, there was a lot of talk about this series coming out as a TV show, and, you know, I said, you know, I'm going to read it first before I see the TV show, and I actually started reading it, and I didn't get far into it, but at that point there was a lot of reviews about it, and they were not flattering in the least. Which was not why I didn't continue reading it. I just, you know, other books came up and they were more tempting than this one, and I decided to just put it aside and watch a TV show, which I have to say I didn't enjoy all that much. So, you know, I'm not sure what it is. But yeah, I still have hopes for this book. I would like to pick it up again and give it a try and decide for myself whether or not I like it. I know that it's, even in the beginning, it's really slow paced, and there's yeah, that can be problematic sometimes, especially when it's such a huge book, but I will definitely try it again and then decide whether or not I'm gonna keep it, whether or not I'm gonna DNF it, or, you know, whatever her fate is gonna be. For similar reasons, I picked up The Man in High Castle by Philip K. Dick. This tells the story of post-Second World War America, the Allies lost in Germany and Japan divided America, and now we get to see what life is like in America, you know, since then. And this is a tiny book. I thought I was going to fly through it, but the writing style for me was so strange that it just turned me off, and I couldn't. I got to the page 20 and really I just couldn't get used to it, and I stopped. I will definitely have plans to read this book. I didn't give up on it entirely, but really the writing style was so different from what I have experienced before that it threw me off, and I had to stop because I wasn't getting anywhere at all. The last book that I'm going to talk about is The Lies of Lamora by Scott Lynch, and this book I'm shocked actually that it is on this list. It really surprised me that it didn't pull me in when I started reading it, but the thing is, just before I picked it up, I finished reading two massive epic fantasies, you know, 1400 pages combined, and I was pretty fed up of big books, and starting another epic fantasy just really didn't feel right at the time, but still I was supposed to buddy read it, and okay, I said I'm going to try it and see how it goes, and I got to page 150, and some parts of it I really enjoyed, some parts just dragged on, and these chapters are really long, which didn't help. You know, I really prefer shorter chapters that I can keep my, you know, they sort of keep my attention, but longer are harder for me. The writing style is also very descriptive, which I do not like at all. But okay, that's not going to be a problem once I'm in the right mood for this book, but sadly I wasn't, and I don't think I will be picking it up this year, probably at the beginning of the next year, because I'm not giving up on this book. This book is so well loved that I cannot be the person not to like it, you know? I cannot be the only one out there. So yeah, I think I just need the right time, you know, to be in the right mood to read it. But you know, if you watch my November wrap-up, you will see that I was all over the place in November when I was actually, you know, wanting to read this book, and it's no wonder that this just didn't fit in. And yes, at the beginning of next year I will be picking it up because I want to like it, I want to love it, and I'm not giving up on it. I want to, you know, this next year it's going to be one of my favorites. Hopefully that's going to be so. Okay, but yeah. So those were some of my least favorite books that I read this year. It's not a huge number, which means that I had a great reading year, and you know, in general, and I definitely feel like that was the case. But do let me know down in the comments what some of your least favorite books were that you read this year. And thank you for watching this video, and see you in my next one. Bye!